But today's presentation is for anyone who is either considering a certificate, master's, or a doctoral program and wants to understand more about what those funding options are at the graduate level. My name is Erica Fichter. I'm the Director of Recruitment at Fielding Graduate University, but I have a couple of my colleagues here today that I will let introduce. The real star of the show is Amanda Green, our Assistant Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships. Amanda, would you like to say hi?
Yes, hello. Hopefully I'll be able to answer all of your questions today as we go through the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here, Amanda. Very excited to have your expertise. And last but not least, Caroline Wedderburn. Would you like to say hi to the group, Caroline?
Thank you, Erica. Yes, welcome everybody. So glad to see you all here today. Just as a reminder, we're all going to be here if you have any questions afterward or as you progress through your exploration of fielding and the particular program you're applying for. So take all of this in. We'll be sending you the copy of the PowerPoint and recording later, but just know we're all here for follow-up questions if you have them.
Excellent point. Thank you. So to review our agenda today, we want to talk first about understanding the cost of attendance of the program. So you understand what those pieces are, some that you're aware of, some you might not be aware of. We're going to talk about your funding options, and then Amanda is going to review the financial aid application with you. We'll talk about your next steps, and as I mentioned, I have plenty of time at the end to address your questions. So we're going to go ahead and get started by talking about understanding the total cost so that you can really be aware of what all pieces make up that total cost and have the ability to compare different schools and programs you may be interested in on a fair and equal level. So Amanda, at this, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Okay, great. All right. So the first thing, yes, is the cost of attendance or the COA. Of course, there's tuition, there's the fees, which are going to be loan fees, and that's calculated out and determined by Department of Education, and also is what is given to Department of Education. Then there's the books and supplies, room and board, and personal expenses. So that's just the section that we calculate yearly based upon an overall national average as to what these items should cost a student if they were to be attending. They are not items that the school charges themselves. The only thing that we would be charging would be the tuition. And then, like I said, with that would be if you decided to take out student loans, would then be the fees that would be added to the student loans for Department of Education purposes. Transportation for those of you that are in a program that requires any kind of transportation once we are allowed to have that option available again due to COVID. But anyway, moving on. For tuition and the fees, so like I said, the only thing that we would be charging would be the tuition itself. For our doctorate programs or PhD programs, it is a flat rate tuition. So it doesn't matter how many credits you take, it's right here with how many per courses you take, it doesn't matter. It's going to be charged at the same. That though is intended for our students, especially those that want to get through their program more quickly. They can do so. The difference between our full-time and our part-time mainly is, obviously full-time is full-time, but for part-time you do need to be at least registered in part-time, which is 4 or more units or credits, in order to receive financial aid, to be financial aid eligible, and to also be eligible to receive the in-school deferment. If you had any previous student loans, you have to be at least in part-time status for those loans to go into basically pause while you're in school. So you don't have to make any payments on them. If you don't want to, of course, I mean, if you can, we do encourage students to continue on with their payment schedules if they had previous student loans. But that's something we could also discuss later one-on-one if you had any of those questions. All right, so for books and supplies, so it's an estimated amount that we determine as to how much should cost, for your books for the year and the supplies for the year. So the room and board is also something that should cost a student to take, to pay for themselves as they go through. The personal expenses, the same, and transportation. For all of this, though, we calculate it out and we add it with the tuition for students to determine how much funding they can receive within an award year, meaning that on top of the tuition, you can receive extra funding, loan funding, for these items if you needed it. So if you needed help with books and supplies or your room and board, you can borrow extra funding from Department of Education to help cover those expenses. So if you do decide to take out student loans, once they came in, obviously our student accounts office would take out what needs to be applied to tuition, and then anything that's remaining would then be cut back to you as they call it a refund. So as a refund to be used for those items. All right, so funding options. Oh, I'm sorry, I just saw a question pop up in the chat. Are there grants as well, or is there just student loans? At the graduate level, there are only student loans. Unlike at your undergrad, there was Pell Grants and possibly some other state or federally funded grants. Unfortunately, at the graduate level, it is just student loans. And there's two different types, but I think there's another slide for that one later. So for this one, for our scholarships, we do have scholarships available to new incoming students. There's the Provost Achievement Scholarship, and that one's for doctoral students incoming. You're automatically considered for that one. You don't have to do a separate application or a separate essay to apply for that one. And the range of the award is anywhere from $500 to $3,000. You just need to make sure that you have all your documents in for enrollment and admissions, and that you have your FAFSA on file. And that's that free application for federal student aid. Whether or not you decide to take out any student loans, the FAFSA is usually, the FAFSA is the very first step for receiving financial aid or need-based scholarships. It's what is going to be used to calculate eligibility for need-based funding. You don't have to take out any loans, though, through the FAFSA. It's just the application. You're not obligated to anything until you let us know that that's the course that you want to take. And then when you become a continuing student, there are more scholarships that become available. Those can range quite widely from about $500 to, we have it listed 10,500 or so. Our scholarships are on a cycle along with our terms of attendance. So each year there's 3 different terms, and students are continuously going through their program and continuing through all the 3 terms. Each term we open up a scholarship. It's called the Common Scholarship Application. And what that is, basically is it's about 3 to 5 questions that a student would answer. And then based upon those answers, your information gets run through our system, and it double checks like what program you're in, where exactly you are at in your program, since some scholarships require you to be further along in the program to be eligible. So it'll double check all of that for you, and it'll populate a list for you as to which scholarships you're eligible to apply for, and it'll also tell you what items are needed to submit to the scholarships office, which is also the financial aid office, but the scholarships office, as to what you need to be considered. And that could be an essay or an LOR, which, or something like that. And we would work with you too to make sure that you get all of those items in as needed. But you can be awarded also multiple scholarships within a term. So we do encourage students to, apply every single time. The way our scholarships are, it's kind of a rolling basis. So for example, right now for our current students, we have scholarships open in the fall. If you are awarded a scholarship in the fall, the funds are posted to your spring tuition. So it's always going to be kind of one term ahead, if that makes sense, for the funding to actually be given to the student. And the majority of our scholarships go directly towards tuition, not to the student, unless it's specifically stated in the scholarship description. Some are for students that are later on in their dissertation phases, and they can get extra funding for research or things like that. But for most of our donors, they determine that they want it to go directly towards tuition. All right, so for external scholarships, we do encourage everyone to just look at really anything. Of course, the key is to keep any, federal loan debt down if possible. So we do, suggest that people take a look at, their start local, take a look at what's around you for nonprofits or any type of, organization that you might be interested even in working for later on down the road. Some of them do provide scholarships or possibly even tuition reimbursements or something like that if you end up working for them. Of course, if you're currently working, see if your HR office offers any type of tuition assistance or tuition reimbursement as well for the degree that you're seeking. We do have out on our scholarship page on our website some different search engines and links out to all different kinds of scholarships that could possibly be for you. A tip though, when you are looking for outside sources, don't just focus on the ones that you think will go for your program, the ones that fit what you're searching for, I should say for your education. Look for ones that are more geared towards you as a person, as an individual. I've seen students get scholarships. I've had a student get a scholarship for being left-handed. I've had a student, get a cancer survivor scholarship. So just look for things that are more towards you. Oh, and there's plenty of scholarships too for single parent households and things like that. So like I said, just kind of when you take a look at that, just keep a broad outlook on it instead of just narrowing it down. Because if you do that to just what you're looking for your education, it will look extremely limited and a little frightening. So just keep it, like I said, just keep an open mind and look through everything. If you need a little bit more guidance, we can try to help you if you want to, email scholarships. It would just be scholarships@fielding.edu. And we can maybe find some other search engines for you to take a look at. But for external scholarships, it would be the student going directly through that or to that organization, submitting whatever it is that organization requires you submit. If you are awarded, they will then, they'll notify you, you let us know, and then usually they pay the school on behalf of the student. Some will pay the student directly, and then you could use that for books and supplies or whatever you need it to be, or you could pay it towards tuition. But a good amount of them will also just want to pay the school directly in your name. So you'll just need to communicate that with us if you were awarded an outside source. Okay, so then yes, for veterans benefits, the main contact for veterans benefits, so if you're using Chapter 33, which is GI Bill, there's also Chapter 35, and 31, I believe, is what we also work with. The very first step is getting your certificate of eligibility from the VA, and once you have that, you would submit it actually to our registrar's office. Our registrar's office processes all of our VA funding and certifies all the enrollment as well. However, if you do have some just general questions, I can answer those. But yes, if you have very specific questions about how much exactly you're eligible to receive once you've sent in your certificate of eligibility, you'll need to contact the registrar's office. They also require a few other documents. Everything they require, though, is listed out on our website under our Veterans Benefits section. So you could take a look at that. Like I said earlier, employment benefits, see if there is any tuition reimbursement. Go talk to your HR office, see if they offer anything. Sometimes they do, and you just are not aware. So it would always be nice. For our international students, we do have a few sources listed here on the slide, and we do have links out on our scholarship and financial aid websites too. for international students. Sometimes they could be a little tricky to navigate for, say, international student loans. And some international student loans require a student to have a U.S. cosigner. So if you just have any questions about that, you could just contact us directly. For that, you would want to contact us at just finaid@fielding.edu, and we can go over what some of those options are. All right, so yes, for the two different types of federal student loans, like I said, at the graduate level, it is federal student loans mainly that are available to students. The very first is that direct unsubsidized Stafford loan. Another thing to note too, the subsidized loan that you may have received in the past with your undergrad is also something that's only available to undergrad students. There are no subsidized student loans at the graduate level, so it's only that unsubsidized one. The max that you can receive per year for the majority of our programs is the $20,500. For our clinical PhD program, which is the only one that's different, since that is considered a medical seeking degree, it goes up to $37,167. So you can receive more if you're doing the clinical PhD program. If not, then for all the other programs, it's $20,500 per award year. The unsubsidized loan does have a lifetime loan limit, so the aggregate loan limits, the most that you could borrow between, and this is going to include any subsidized loans that you had received in the past, any subsidized and unsubsidized loans that you had received in the past in your undergrad, and whatever you've received at the graduate level combined, and that is $138,500. So once you reach that max, you can then go over here and see if you can get a Grad Plus loan. The interest rates and the loan origination fees will be updated. They do change in October for the coming award years. But for the unsubsidized loans, there is no credit check. The FAFSA is pretty much anyone qualifies for that loan. The running joke is that even Oprah will qualify for this loan. It doesn't matter what you make. It doesn't matter. This is pretty much how much your previous loan debt is, as long as you're not close to that $138,500. If you are, then we would work with you and we would be able to give you the difference until you reach that max. So for the Graduate Plus loan, though, it is separate from the FAFSA. It is an entirely separate application. It is still on the same federal website, which is the studentloans.gov website. This one, though, for the Graduate Plus loan, like I mentioned, if you do end up maxing out in the unsubsidized lifetime aggregate loan limit, you can then borrow completely from the Graduate Plus loan if needed. The Graduate Plus loan currently has no lifetime loan limit. This is generally for students who are on possibly like their second master's degree or even a second PhD. A lot of students that attend medical school or law school end up with the Graduate Plus loan. Over here, though, this one is going to be different from the unsub in that it requires a credit check. The Department of Education is the one that runs the credit check. They're the ones that make the determination if you are approved or denied. Majority of our students are approved. The only things that really people need to watch for if they were to get denied is having a major default within the last 5 years. And that is either like a foreclosure or a bankruptcy, something like that. Or, of course, if you had defaulted on previous student loans, that could be another reason why you may be declined. The Department of Education does not tell us why they decline a student. They just give us a report saying approved or denied. If you are denied, though, contact our office and we could give you the information as to what your next steps are. They do have an appeal process, so you would just contact Department of Education. They assign you adjudicator, and they would work with you as to what you need to submit. If you need to submit extra documentation for the appeal, for them to review and possibly then overturn your denial. Another option, too, for students who are denied is a cosigner. To get an endorser is the word they use, but to get an endorser on the loan could also help with the denial. But from there, like I said, you can get the extra funding that you need that either the $20,500 did not cover for your tuition. And if you needed extra funding, like I said earlier, if you needed the extra funding for books and supplies or living expenses, personal miscellaneous, that is what you would get. If you needed the extra funding, you would need to apply then for the Graduate Plus loan to get that extra funding. So if you needed to cover those other expenses, pretty much you would be doing both of these student loans to manage all of that so that you could get the refund back to, like I said, help with your school-related expenses. Oh, and sorry, I just saw a little asterisk at the bottom. There are private student loans available. Yeah, thank you. We don't encourage students to take out private student loans, mainly because their interest rates can be higher. They cannot be combined with your federal student loans, as in once you're done with your program, you can consolidate your federal student loans all together and have 1 or 2 monthly payments and have a different, and have a set interest rate. Also, the other thing too with the student loans, the federal student loans, is they are also in a deferment status. So though they are accruing interest from the time they are dispersed, you are not required to make any payments on them, whereas with private student loans, there are times where you have to start making payments right away, even though you're still attending your program. So it just depends upon the company itself as to what your terms and conditions are going to be. All right.
Thank you, Amanda, for walking us through all of those options. Now we're going to talk about applying for federal student aid.
All right. So yes, the very first step is completing the FAFSA. It's pretty simple, and if you had done it in the past, it may have actually saved some of your information, so it might even be quicker for you to get through. But on average, it could take probably 15 to 30 minutes. There is no reason to wait. You can fill out your FAFSA at any time right now if you're interested in spring, or if you're even interested in, well, if you're interested in spring, you're going to want to do the 2020-2021 FAFSA, which will be based off of your 2018 taxes. If you are interested in attending in fall, you'll need to do the 2021-2022 FAFSA, which will be based off of your 2019 taxes. That being said, though, you could do them at any time. We would receive it, and it would just sit in our database until your enrollment has been confirmed, and then we would move forward with processing it. So it doesn't matter when you do it, just, as long as you get it in and it's sitting there, then of course, once you get accepted and you say, yes, indeed, this is what I want to do, we can get rolling on it quickly. Let's see, like I said, yeah, there is no commitment to it. You can apply and then decide not to take out any of the loans. That's perfectly fine. For the need-based scholarships, like I said, we would take a look at that because it does determine, the Department of Education has a calculation on there that determines need based on your tax information. If your tax information has changed or your situation has changed, you could always email us too and let us know. There might be something we could do about it, but just email finaid@fielding.edu if you have questions. So once you do the FAFSA, the second step is completing the entrance counseling and the master promissory note. So the entrance counseling, some of you may, again, be familiar with it. It's kind of a little quiz about taking out student loans. It just gives you an introductory information about taking out student loans and how it will work. At the end of the program, so either if you complete and you graduate or you exit at any time, you will be sent an exit counseling link to complete. And that one would actually have your personal information on it. So it would give you more details as to what you are looking at with the Department of Education is that exit counseling at the end. For the master promissory note, of course, it's yes, I agree to pay all of this back. It has all the terms and conditions of the loan that's in that. If you are wanting to do the Graduate Plus loan, you'll need to do that separate Graduate Plus loan application. It also has a separate MPN as well. The entrance, it has the same entrance counseling though. So one entrance counseling covers it all. Okay, so then once you are accepted, we've packaged your loans and everything is good to go. You'll get access to this screenshot here, but you'll get access to the student self-service web advisor portal, and it'll have a checklist of items too. So if you are missing, say, the entrance counseling or a master promissory note, it would notify you here, and it will provide links out to the Department of Education websites that you could go to. Once you have everything in, though, it'll look like this, and it'll just say review and accept your financial aid. You would click on that, it'll take you to another page within the portal, and you would be able to either accept or decline the student loans that you are being offered. You'll also, before you get to this stage though, we'll also send you an email that's your financial aid offer. So it'll give you kind of an overview of the amount of the loans that you are currently set up to receive. Like I said, we will automatically package and put on that offer letter the unsubsidized loan and the full amount that you qualify for. The Graduate Plus loan though, we only go up to cover the rest of the tuition and books and supplies unless otherwise stated by the student that they want more funding. So we're not going to automatically just do that for you, just in case for some people that, you know, they don't need all that funding. Obviously, you know, trying to keep your costs down for loan debt is, like I said, our goal. But if you do need it, just let us know and we can increase that Graduate Plus loan to cover. The way the funding does come into the school, though you are approved for the year amount, it disperses by term. So each term, it's basically you have your $20,500. It's divided as evenly as possible by the 3 terms. And so as you continue through, you know, you get one chunk in fall, you'll get another one in spring and another one in summer. It doesn't come in all at once. And that's because Department of Education requires students to be continuously enrolled and make satisfactory academic progress in order to remain eligible to receive that funding. So you do agree to the amount that you want to borrow for the award year, so for your academic year, but it comes through each term as we continue to say, yes, this person is enrolled, yes, they are making their grades, and Department of Ed will then release the funds each term. And it is a process that has to be renewed every year. So you would do a new FAFSA, you know, every award year. You do a new Graduate Plus loan every award year as well. And we do send out notifications letting students know when that time is. So don't worry about that.
All right. Thank you so much for all of that excellent information, Amanda. At this time, we're going to turn it over to Caroline for your next steps.
Great, thank you. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we understand everyone's particular needs are different, and we highly encourage you to connect with the financial aid team individually if you have any questions. You can reach them by email with any of those questions, or you can schedule a call using their appointment calendar. I'll share that in the chat in just a moment. You can also continue joining us for our open house series. So in the next slide, we'll show you those upcoming dates. Our next event, part 4, is called Excited or Scared. So if you're feeling either or a combination of those feelings, attend this webinar and come and ask us any lingering questions that will help put any of those anxieties at ease. We'd love to hear how excited you are as well about starting or continuing your higher education journey. So let us know, about your excitement too. And if you have particular program questions, attend the Q&A webinar for the program you are applying. These webinars will be hosted by the program directors and lead faculty members who are amazing resources for any of the program-specific questions you may still have the week of the application deadline. So again, there's so many ways to stay engaged. And if you have any pressing questions, simply email us at admissions@fielding.edu or give us a call on our general line, 805-898-4026. Thank you for joining us today.